Welcome to the Bringing Hope Home podcast. We're Bryce and Colette Schaefer, pastors, teachers, and madly in love empty nesters. We invite you into our home as we candidly share faith-filled, practical ways to build a strong and lasting marriage.
Welcome back to another episode of Bringing Hope Home. And Pastor Colette and I are really glad to be here today with you once again. And we're talking about longevity this month.
Longevity. So we've been in it for longevity. I mean, we've been 29 years
29 now? Plus years, really about 31 total that we've decided to, we like each other. And
the subject is important. I was recently at a class reunion, and a friend of mine said, yours and maybe a couple others are the only marriages that I have seen that have lasted.
Right.
And that's kind of a lot sad.
Mm-hmm. It's not what you want to see or hear about.
But there isn't very many. So longevity is something, that we need to learn how. How'd you get there? How did you get there? How do you have longevity? And I would, say, find people in your circles, in your life. If you see an older couple, take them out to dinner, and just talk with them. What things, have made it work for them, and it
might spark something for you too. And I think that's so important. And when I look back at our marriage in 30 years and others that have, closing on 50 or so, I believe one of the areas, and what we're going to talk about today, is believing the best in one another. Mm-hmm. I think that we start out there when we get married. We usually see that, and we call it the honeymoon phase and stage. And it doesn't even matter if they have little quirks or tics. They just, it's so easy, and you don't see those at all. Mm-mm. And even if they mess up, you're like, oh, let me help, let me support, let me, get around that easily. And you're just kind of walking through the tulips. Mm-hmm. And then, life happens, stress happens, health happens, all these things, and time.
Nitpicking.
Yeah, and boy, believing the best in each other. You don't hear that in, couples a lot after 5-10 years. Usually it's the opposite. It's nagging, it's degrading, it's, in their body language when they talk about their spouse.
Because at the beginning, it's easy. You don't have to work at it, right? You're in that honeymoon phase. It's just easy. You're in love and everything is so rosy. Well, as you go through life, we all know that you can't stay there, right? That's not real.
Or you thought maybe that what you did see that needed to change or kind of irritated you at the beginning would just change over time.
Right.
And that doesn't usually happen. You don't marry somebody to change somebody. If you're hoping they're going to go to church, or you hope they're not going to snore, or just silly things to big things, don't expect that the marriage is going to change that. Now, marriages change and we change.
We should be always growing.
And we should be growing and changing. But, the only one you can control is you, as we've always said. And so one of the best ways to help somebody change, or just to have a positive attitude in yourself, is to think the best about the other, to want the best. Again, we said it on the last podcast, when we win or your spouse wins, you both win. So you want them to succeed. And when you see them succeed, it's a team success. Mm-hmm. In sports, the coach doesn't play, or a parent doesn't play, or, some teammates are on the bench. But those that really humble themselves and value the team always think, even if they get the accolades, it's team success. And there are always people behind the scenes that support them and got them to where they were today. And in a marriage is no different. in any area. So we definitely want to do that. You talk about this today, and our perfect role model is always going to be Jesus. So we want to bring that up right away. That he says in Mark chapter 10, verse 45, that he came to serve, not be served. And that in a marriage, a good place to start. I'm not here just to get things from my wife or my husband. I'm here to serve them. I found somebody in life that I want to serve. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's really, when you get married, I want to serve that person for the rest of my life. How many times do we think that?
Because really, that's the root of love. Love gives. I mean, if you want to stir up love and keep that emotion going, it is tapping into giving and serving each other. That's true love right there. It's not a feeling, it's serving one another.
And when I serve my spouse, when I serve Colette, one of the things I'm doing is trying to believe the best in her. I'm helping support her to do what she's called to do. Mm-hmm. And that gets fun when you have that kind of a mindset. I remember when you went back to school and we had all three of our kids, mm-hmm. and we've used this analogy a lot because it was huge time in our lives. But when you graduated from college, and we had, I think Nate was about, third grade or somewhere in there, second grade. So they were all in elementary school. We celebrated together. Yeah, Mommy got the diploma.
It was a family endeavor.
But it was a family cheering that we all succeeded.
And you definitely picked up and did all the cooking.
So I always felt like, boy, this was a team thing. Mm-hmm. And to get through those struggles for those 2 years while you went back to school, that's the mindset to not get bitter. Mm-hmm. That's the mindset to not feel like you're being underserved yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the whole thing of a team, right? Of working as a team. When someone has a weakness or whatever, you pick up the slack and come in and help in that situation. So you both are winning. You're both still on the team, even though one might be sidelined or something is going on in their life that, causes them not to have the mm-hmm. same responsibilities or whatever. But we're working as a team in this goal. And
For sure. The Bible also says a lot of times, especially in the New Testament, about building each other up. Mm-hmm. And the word you'll see is edification. Be an edifier. We're all called to edify the body of Christ. Well, the best place to start is with your spouse. Mm-hmm. Edify them. Build each other up. Be an encourager. Barnabas is the name, son of encourager. Mm-hmm. And he really saw something in Paul when he was converted to Christianity and found Jesus. Without that encouragement and saying, I see something in there. He might be a diamond in the rough, but boy, he's got something on the inside that the world needs. Mm-hmm. And he's got a solid foundation. And became Paul's cheerleader for the first, part of Paul's ministry. And then they stayed in touch the rest of Paul's life. But without that first encouragement and seeing something when nobody else saw it, that's huge. And so we're called to be an encourager to the other believers in our lives, in our church, but especially our family, our spouse, our kids. It's okay that you might have to struggle with things and get around things, but that's where you're there to support mm-hmm. and build up. So that's important, for sure. One thing we wanted to mention too is there's different seasons in our lives, and you're going to need different kinds of support. Mm-hmm. When you get married, you say your vows, and it's for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, sickness, and in health. Those are the traditional vows that people used to give, and I don't usually do those much anymore. People kind of have gone away from that. But to me, the mindset of the traditional vows need to be there. And what it's saying is, I'm going to support you no matter what. Mm-hmm. And through the seasons of life, whatever you're going through, whatever you're dealing with, whatever is what we're going to deal with. Mm-hmm. And it's not a throwaway society. Well, they got too much on their plate now. I'm going to back out of this marriage.
Yeah, it's easy to say at the beginning of your marriage, oh yeah, no matter what, we're in this. But when the going gets hard, to say, are you still in this? Are you still, moving forward?
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's key. And a lot of times when you're being an encourager or, believing the best in them, one of the best ways to start is just by listening. I mean, you've even told me before, Bryce, I don't need you to solve this. Just listen. And because I like to solve things, I will give my 2 cents really quick, don't I? And so sometimes she has to pre-warn me, I don't need your 2 cents. I just need you to support and listen and let me process verbally. And that's okay too. So just being a sounding board is being an encourager and supporting them for sure. Right. So, here we want to give you a few, I like to-do lists, or not lists, but we like to leave you from our podcast with things to grow in, action plan. So let's give you some action to help encourage each other and believe the best in each other. So number 1, try to do or fulfill one thing for your spouse each day.
That's a challenge.
That is a challenge. I challenge you to find one thing to do for your spouse or to fulfill that role for your spouse. It could be as simple as, I don't usually do the dishes, so tonight I'm going to. I'm supporting you. Those are so simple. And they can be bigger ones, they can be smaller ones. And I don't want to pigeonhole you, but find something. I think that's really easy.
That's a good one.
And again, the other spouse will perk up a little bit, like, oh, thank you. And you should say thank you, by the way. And it just helps the whole situation. Number 2, when things go wrong, don't blame your spouse. That gets everybody into defense mode.
And that doesn't go good.
No, it never. Has it ever gone good for you when you blame your spouse over anything?
No,
even spilt milk. I mean, yes, it might have been their fault, but let's deal with it. Let's move on. Let's process the situation. And if something then was because of your spouse's fault, let's deal with that at a different time. That's key. And again, you're believing the best in your spouse. You didn't mean for that to happen. I'm still going to be here to support you, even though now we got a negative path and some negative consequences and some more effort that we have to put in. We're going to get through it, and then we'll make the adjustments. So that's key, because if not, the devil, that's an easy one for the devil to find a foothold in.
You start blaming, you start taking sides. So if you have a situation like you said, sometimes you have to deal with the hard situation, but let's deal with it together. Even if, say, one of you is a spender and the other isn't, and has gotten into financial trouble because of the spending. Well, that's a subject, instead of you just always spend. Well, you spend on, that could get in the big back and forth. Instead, okay, let's approach this together. How can we have a budget? How can we, that's what we're talking about, is facing the subject together. How can we move forward?
And then you, and this is where we always need to come in. I need to start holding myself accountable, whatever the situation may be. So we're not in that predicament again. Number 3, and this is another, action thing for you to do, be inquisitive about your spouse. Be inquisitive. So, their feelings, their thoughts, their drive to do something about their day, about their dreams, be inquisitive.
We always are a big proponent for, dinner around the table, not just dinner sitting there watching TV as you eat, but dinner at the table, or go for walks, or just a time to connect. You should have a time daily, but at least weekly to connect. The prime thing would be the daily time, daily time to connect.
And it's just not, how was your day? If you have a teenager, you ask them that question, it's fine. Okay. leave me alone. Well, same with your spouse. They're not a teenager. They know how to play that game a little bit. So again, be inquisitive. Well, how'd that report go? When we were teachers, well, how was that second hour? If that's the trouble spot in the day. Those kind of things. Again, you're valuing your spouse when you are inquisitive about their day and their life. And even if you think you know it all, you really don't know it all yet. So that's one.
Even if you had no idea about their world.
Oh, true.
I always ask you, how did basketball practice go? Do you think I really care about basketball practice?
You really don't.
I don't care about basketball practice, but I care about him. Right? And I want, if things went well for you, or if the boys were receptive or whatever. So it's not necessarily about the thing you're asking about, but it's your spouse in the thing. So
right. I love it. Keep asking those basketball questions.
I will.
You find it took a couple years and you figured offense, defense. I mean, it was good. It was good.
Hey.
All right. Next thing, celebrate your spouse. Celebrate their highs. Celebrate them. Celebrate it. It doesn't have to be for any old reason. Just why'd you buy him flowers today? Well, I want to celebrate you. I'm thinking of you. Well, it's not my birthday. It's not this. I don't like flowers. Okay, then find something else.
Bring them an ice cream cone.
Yeah, or a coffee, or
yeah.
So celebrate your spouse. And again, when you start thinking and changing that mindset instead of how awful they are and why they messed up or they're not going to help you, when you celebrate your spouse, your mindset changes. This is how longevity happens in your marriage. The next one, the same kind of thing, is value your spouse. Don't devalue them. When
their opinions and their viewpoints, and if they have a differing viewpoint, value that. And a lot of times in a marriage, you're two different personalities. So value the differences, because you're coming at a situation different, and use that as a strength. Okay, you see it from this side, I see it from this side. That's a strength, because you have two different perspectives now on this thing instead of just one. So use that to your advantage and
then
value
go back
your
to
spouse.
last week and compromise.
Yeah.
One might be a night owl. One's a morning person. So you're going to see things respond differently. One of you might be more last minute, rush to get it done. ADHD. One might not be. Or maybe you both are. How do you help each other? I mean, all those things, but value your spouse, and then don't say, what do you think, sweetie, honey, whatever word, and then, well, we're still going to do it my way. Anyway, that one speaks for itself.
The next one is remind yourself and your spouse of why you're grateful for them. And we've kind of talked about that with, valuing them, but this goes even a step further. Name it. What are you grateful for? I'm thankful that you're always there. You're consistent. You're always there with the kids. You care. You're getting up in the middle of the night. I mean, whatever it is, call those things out. We're quick to call out the negative.
Yeah.
So let's be quick to call out the positive. I really thank you for always taking out the garbage. I don't even have to ask, and you take it out, and that it blesses me, because I don't even have to think about it. You see it and do it.
Right. Those are important.
So, we can get in that spiral of pointing out the negative. Well, he never takes out the trash. Well, he never.
Or like us, I never dust.
Yep. But find what.
But I do the trash.
But you do the trash. So, don't bring up the negatives, build up the positive. Thank you for seeing that and doing that.
Right. And that helps. I mean, it just makes it a lot easier.
And at this point, we've recognized
it's funny now,
the
at
tasks
30
that
years.
we just want to do and don't do, and you don't expect the other one. I never expect him to dust.
No, but I will. Once or twice a year, just to say, I do,
I don't think you have.
I do.
I think maybe 5 times in our marriage. marriage.
No. We'll have this discussion off air. No, we won't. It's one of our teasing
However,
things.
you do take off the trash.
Almost every time. But it's funny. All right, last one. Before we take off for today, we've gone a little over time here, but showcase your spouse. And what a showcase isn't just telling them you value them for taking out the trash. Showcase them is you're going to share their successes and value them and highlight them to others.
Because again, quickly we can say, oh yeah, my spouse does this. Oh yeah, my husband does this. And you can get into this complaining. Well, how much better would it be to, no, I don't know what you're talking about because my husband.
Yeah, and showcase them. When they look good, brag on them. That's a way of doing it, but brag on them. And you're going to see your people around you change their tone as well. Just watch. Just brag on your spouse once around other people in the middle of a conversation that you could bring something up and not sound so out of character or out of the conversation. Just do it and see how the whole conversation changes because you bragged on and highlighted your spouse. Yeah. It's awesome. You do these little things that we've been talking about this month. And boy, the longevity factor is skyrocketing and going through the roof.
The key is actually doing it. Find one or two of these things that you can latch onto and make it a habit for, the rest of your life. Really to do. I'm going to say 21 days to make a habit, but don't stop there. Keep going. Because this is what will help that longevity. Yeah. And will bless your marriage.
And we're here to cheer you on. We really are at Schaefer Ministries. That's what we're all about. We have coaching for us to come alongside you and help you learn to do some of these things. So, click the link below or go to our website and start following us on social media. We're here to be this edifier for you as well and to, remind you of some things and give you tools. So don't ever forget about us being that side. Come alongside.
Cheer you on, so you can do this.
That's right.
All right. Sure. Well, thanks for being with us again this week. And until next time, bring hope home to your life today.
If you're listening on the Apple Podcast app, give us a 5-star rating and drop a review. If you're listening on Spotify, give us a follow. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. See you next week.